Hello and welcome once again to the Your Farm podcast here on Hoosier Ag Today. I'm your host of the podcast, CJ Miller, and our podcast is presented by Indiana Farm Bureau, a united voice for agriculture. In fact, we thank you for watching all of our podcasts as Hoosier Ag Today presents your Purdue Extension, a podcast network. And on today's podcast, we're talking about the AgrAbility program and the Breaking New Ground program. It's a national program, but it all started at Purdue University about, 47 years ago, 1979. Dr. Bill Field, the gentleman who started it. We're going to be talking to Ed Sheldon with Purdue coming up in just a second as we take a deeper dive into the AgrAbility program, Breaking New Ground, and how it is changing lives for farmers all across, not just Indiana, but across many of our great states. That's all coming up here on the Your Farm podcast here on Hoosier Ag Today.
At Indiana Farm Bureau, we serve tree farmers, goat farmers, and in fact, all farmers. With over 250,000 members, Indiana Farm Bureau represents a broad range of farmers and puts power in your collective voice. You also get advice from our subject matter experts, more affordable health plan options, and support for youth programs statewide. So whether you grow soybeans or strawberries, membership means you'll be heard. Become a member today at infb.org.
And we're back on the Your Farm podcast, and we're talking about the AgrAbility program, Breaking New Ground. That was the original name for the program when it first started many, many years ago at Purdue's campus. And our guest today is Ed Sheldon. He is, he's a part of not just Purdue Extension and the AgrAbility program, but he's also with the Purdue University Agricultural Biological Engineering Department. In fact, Ed, you wear a whole host of different hats for Purdue University, and we certainly thank you for joining us here today on the Your Farm podcast. In fact, I believe this is your second guest appearance on the Your Farm podcast. But Ed, let's dive straight into it. Let's talk about the Breaking New Ground and AgrAbility program. I just announced earlier that it had started back in 1979, but tell us a little bit about how this program initiated and how Dr. Bill Field at Purdue got this program off the ground and how he kind of came up with the idea of helping the thousands of farmers that the program has helped.
Great. And thank you for the opportunity to join the podcast again. This is awesome. We greatly appreciate it. Let's dive back a little bit into history, and that was before my time a little bit, but I've heard the stories enough on how the program came about. At least before my time at Purdue, anyway. Um, in the late '70s, Dr. Bill Field had just was early into his career as the extension safety specialist here in the Purdue Ag and Biological Engineering Department, and had received a phone call, which I believe was cycled through the extension system. Someone had called their county extension agent at the time. Now would be an educator, but called their county ag agent. A gentleman had spinal cord injury and wanted to be able to get into his combine and be a farmer again. And somehow the call got passed up the chain and ended up with Dr. Field, and together with some help from, I believe, some engineers here in the department, and probably some farmer engineering in there as well, uh, came up with one of the really early tractor lifts to help this gentleman get back into his equipment. And major change in this individual's life, just put him back home, if you will, back in that tractor seat, back in that combine seat. Um, Again, that was in the late '70s. The program, within a year or two, I believe, we tagged with the name Breaking New Ground. Was what we called or what the program was called through the '80s. The program grew, was primarily an Indiana focused project, but we worked with folks from around the country as well. Um, a few other states started programs through their extension service as well. And between those programs and our Breaking New Ground program here at Purdue, in the 1990 Farm Bill, Congress saw fit to include a section about uh, assistive technology for farmers with disabilities. And the program became known as the AgrAbility Project. That was, and I believe that was the first projects were awarded. It was and still is a competitive grant program. The first projects were awarded in 1991. Uh, we were fortunate here at Purdue to be the host of the first National AgrAbility Project. And our role as the National AgrAbility Project is primarily to support state and regional projects around the country. We started out with 8 regional project or state and regional projects back in the early 90s. Over the time that the program's grown, now we have 21 state projects with the definite potential budgeted to kick that up several over the next year or two, which is great. Um, each AgrAbility project in a state is hosted by the state's land grant extension program, and then that program collaborates with a statewide disability serving organization. Here in Indiana, we work closely with Eastern Seals Crossroads is our state partner, and that helps expand not just ours, but any state, our reach into the disability community, and helps cross that bridge. Most of our AgrAbility programs are like us. We're based in an agricultural university. We have a lot of ag folks. That disability counterpart partner certainly brings more exposure, more ability to connect with the disability resources community, and so it's been a very successful model. And we're fortunate that our legislators in Washington are very supportive. And again, like I said, we actually had a little bit of an increase in funding over the next couple of years to add some more state projects, which is great. So,
The Your Farm podcast as we talk about the AgrAbility Project, breaking new ground. And just to summarize, if a farmer has an injury on the farm, let's say they've lost a limb in a farming accident. Even beyond that, if their knees, if they certainly a lot of farmers as they age, as we all age, not just farmers, it's not just exclusive to them, but as we all age, our body breaks down, and so you mentioned the spinal injury that the very first farmer had who was helped by this initiative, but it helps not just those who are suffering from injuries, but also those who are older that, once again, as our bodies age, they kind of break down and we're not as agile as we used to be to climb up in that tractor cab or again in the combine like we used to. And so when I think about the thousands of farmers and those in the ag industry that this program has helped, not just in Indiana, but across the entire U.S., it goes beyond helping them in a physical capacity. But I can't help to think that the work that you and Dr. Field and everyone is doing certainly helps with the mental health as well and the psychological health of all the farmers who are involved and are benefiting from this program.
oh, that is huge. I think anybody that works with farmers, grew up on, I guess not necessarily even grew up on farms, just knows farmers. Uh, you realize it's farming is not just a way to make a living; it is a life and a lifestyle. And if someone is suddenly unable to participate in what the lifestyle that they love, it is very, very tough mentally on them. It's a very tough situation, and many times our clientele, I mean, and it doesn't really. matter what the disability is, what the cause, or even what, we help connect them with solutions. It's that ability to get back doing what they love to do and feeling productive. Uh, yeah, the physical aspect is huge, but the mental, I guess, relief. I'm not sure that's even the right word, but the mental freedom that folks who had been unable to do what they love to do, and then all of a sudden, hey, now we can do this. Whether it's a change in practice or a new lift to get on a machine or something that lets them get back into doing what they want to do is a huge mental boost. Um, Certainly not going to discount the fact that, the physical aspect, but I appreciate you mentioning the mental boost. That's huge. What part of what makes
Oh,
this
and I
rewarding?
don't want to mention that. Well, I want to mention, Ed, that I can't begin to imagine, and it kind of chokes me up when I think about this, how many farmers' lives have been saved because by what AgrAbility is doing to provide this adaptive technology to the farm for for those farmers who have been injured or are older, and it helps them regain that sense of purpose, that sense of identity. And I can't imagine how many farmers would have decided otherwise to have taken a different path, and one that would have been destructive for themselves and their families had you and your team not help them regain that sense of purpose and that identity and help them get back to work and get back to doing what they love.
We certainly can't put a number on that. I mean, but I know where you're going with it. And yes, I think we have over the years, and not just here at Purdue, but around the country, made a huge difference in folks' lives. And we've had enough testimonials about how life changing just becoming, being able to again regain that sense of purpose is for folks. So yeah, like I said, I don't really dwell on numbers and of lives saved, but yeah, we probably have, and that's a good feeling that we're able to move the needle that much for families and people. It's very humbling.
Chatting with Ed Shelton. Absolutely. Chatting with Ed Sheldon here on the Your Farm podcast on Hoosier Ag Today. And if someone is, let's say, a farmer, someone that is, and once again, I mentioned many of the folks who have been helped by the program have lost limbs or have been injured while on the farm, and we've talked before about a number of farming accidents. It's a very, very difficult and challenging job, and a very dangerous one at that. But once again, if the farmer is even older and they're aging and their, let's say, their knees, their back, their shoulder isn't quite what it once was, and they need that adaptive help. Walk us through the process that they would meet with you or Dr. Field or a member of the team, and that process of that first initial meeting to coming out to the farm and hooking up that adaptive technology that they need.
Okay, great. Yeah. Um, First of all, I do want to mention and appreciate you bringing up. Yeah, farming is a very hazardous industry, and a number of our clients do have injuries or disabilities as a result of incidents on the farm. That's probably part of the reason that the Ag Safety and Health Program here at Purdue is the host, if you will, of the national and state AgrAbility projects. But we find not just here in Indiana, but around the country, the majority of our clientele and the folks that call us, their disability doesn't necessarily involve a farm injury. Um, Farmers are susceptible to all of the other illnesses and injuries that anybody else in the population might have, whether that's vehicle accidents, recreational vehicle crashes, then look at chronic disease issues, whether that's heart issues or diabetes, uh, autoimmune diseases. They're just, and we work with everybody. So uh, thanks for bringing that up and mentioning that. Yeah, we are kind of known for working with folks with farm injuries, but that's far from our only clientele base. Uh, how does somebody get in contact with us? And I'll kind of speak both from the state and the national perspective here, since most of us here at Purdue work for both the state and the national project, just how things divide up. But here in Indiana, simply give us a call at 800-825-4264, or you can go on our website at agrability.org and find an email contact as well. Give us a call. Sometimes a lot of times we'll get referrals from extension educators. Certainly, we are part of the extension program, not just here in Indiana, but nationally. We are all under the auspices of USDA NIFA and work hand in hand with the Extension Service in all the states where we have programs. Uh, so call your extension educator, call us directly, whatever. Make the contact, and at that point, it depends entirely on the individual situation. Sometimes we can get you in the right direction with a phone call or say, here, check out this tool. This might be exactly what you need. But when the situation warrants is switches quite regularly. That's what we're here to do is to go out. We can go out, make a site assessment, a site visit, go out to the farm, sit down. First of all, sit down at the kitchen table, find out what your situation is, what your needs are, what it's going to take to get, what you think it's going to take to get back into being productive. Then perhaps a site assessment, look at your farm, look at your equipment. At that point, uh, then we try to connect you with those resources. And that might be uh, working through. Now, one thing I do want to point out: we are not a funding organization. AgrAbility, we don't have funds to support the purchase of equipment or adaptive tools. Um, but what we can do is work with existing programs or organizations, agencies that is their role here in Indiana and across the country as well. One of our best partners is the state vocational rehabilitation program, which Voc Rehab or vocational rehabilitation is a state and federal partnership. It's available in every state, and their role is to keep. That's what their role is, and their funding is to keep people working, keep people productive. Uh, we have folks that can help walk through that process. Naturally, it's something that someone would have to do their own application and all that, but we have folks to help with that. Steve Swain, who's been on our staff for 25 years, that's his primary role is to go out and do these site assessments, visit with the farmer, learn what their needs are, and then help walk through those. What do we need to do to, here's where we want to go. What do we need to do from point A here to point B where we want to be? So I guess the main point is everybody's situation is a little bit different. Uh, Sometimes, and unfortunately, some of the solutions that might be appropriate may be quite expensive, and we understand that, and that's why there are programs out there that we do try to connect you with. Sometimes there are other government agencies, there might be private organizations that can assist as well. Again, that's where our role comes in is help you figure out what's appropriate for your situation, and then how do we help get you there?
Well, and Ed, a lot of times when you think about the AgrAbility program, you're thinking about putting a lift onto a tractor or a combine. But I've spoken to those who have been helped by the program, and sometimes it's a matter of figuring out how to install a ramp so that someone in a wheelchair or someone with a little bit of a walking problem can easily maneuver going into a barn as opposed to having to climb
Hmm.
steps or stairs. And so it doesn't necessarily have to mean brand new equipment to your point. It could be as easy
Right.
as we just need to put a ramp. right here so you can maneuver more easily into the barn. Or maybe it's a pulley system to where and it makes it easier for the close the barn doors, any number of different things that may be simple to most folks, but if you're in that position and you need the help, then it may take someone from your team to kind of put those wheels into motion to identify how to make things easier for those who need that help.
Absolutely. And one thing I want to mention is we like simple solutions because they tend to work and they are cheaper. Um, a lot of the tools and equipment that we recommend or have come across over the years, uh, they come from the ingenuity of a farmer out there that figured out something in his shop because he wanted an easier or better way to do things. Uh, and that's a huge part of what we do is look out there. What are the options? What are some things people have already done? Um, I know been involved in some of the creation of some of this equipment, some of the tools that might be used, but most of the time we're borrowing somebody else's idea, some farmer out there that's already figured it out. We might be able to add a tweak or two to make it a little safer. Sometimes farmer solutions aren't necessarily the safest option, but so yeah. Um, and again, if we can, if somebody's having trouble accessing a tractor, let's look at that as an example. Maybe they don't need a lift. Maybe an extra step that's a little closer to the ground will serve the purpose and get them up there. So we always look for the simplest solution where we can and move from there. A piece of pipe insulation around a bucket handles great for someone with arthritis, and it costs nothing essentially. So that type of thing, we try to connect people with very practical solutions where possible.
Absolutely. In fact, I want to give a quick shout out to Ned Stoller. He is involved with the Michigan AgrAbility program, and he is doing some amazing work in the Great Lakes states, trying to get those farmers adaptive technology and help those. In his area. I know that he had once worked at Purdue with Dr. Field and with your team, and took the program with him up to Michigan State once he was hired there. And he has been doing phenomenal work up in Michigan State with the Michigan AgrAbility program. And that's the great thing about this particular program is that even though it started here in Indiana at Purdue in 1979, it's now in well over 20 different states across the U.S.
I also want to mention we didn't let Ned completely go to Michigan. He actually still works on a consulting basis with both the Indiana and the National AgrAbility Project. Is our rehab engineer. In fact, it was just before I got on this call, I sent a referral to him from an individual in Nevada. So anytime we have somebody that's looking for tools, equipment, especially anything that needs to be fabricated, created from scratch. Ned's the guy. So he's still very much involved and does a great job for us.
Absolutely. And once again, visit the website for AgrAbility. And if you have some questions about the program, we'll provide that also at HoosierAgToday.com. And Ed, is there anything else? I always ask this question at the end of the podcast, but is there anything else I've forgotten to ask or that you'd like to include as part of our conversation here today to spread the word about the AgrAbility project and what the team at Purdue is doing to help those in need?
I guess what I would say is if you know or have a friend, family member, acquaintance who you think could benefit from what we do, please try to connect them with us or make the phone call yourself. Um, make the phone call or send us an email. I answer the phone. I won't. I'm pretty friendly. We'll have a conversation and then we'll see what we can do to help you. Uh, or Paul Jones will usually answers the emails. Either way, we will try to connect you with whoever on our staff is most appropriate for what your needs are, and go from there. But uh, I also want to point out our services are free. Your tax dollars pay for what we do, and we appreciate that Congress putting that responsibility to us. Take it very seriously. So don't hesitate to give us a call, and we'll do everything we can to try to help you out.
Once again, Ed Shelton from Purdue University. He is their farm and veteran job coach and engagement coordinator, but he does much more than that. And if you have some more questions about AgrAbility, you can always do a Google search, AgrAbility, Purdue. And if you have once again, I know donations. I know that I know the Michigan program is always seeking donations to help them with funding on their end. But if you have some extra money burning a hole in your pocket and you want to give to an outstanding cause, there's no greater cause in the ag community than the AgrAbility program and the National AgrAbility Project. Ed, thank you so much for sharing more about the AgrAbility program here today on Hoosier Ag Today. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity.
And absolutely. And thank you for joining us here on the Your Farm podcast as Hoosier Ag Today presents Your Purdue Extension, a podcast network. If you haven't done so already, if you're watching this on YouTube, there are some buttons down below. You can hit like and subscribe. That way, every time we have not just a new Your Farm podcast, but any video that's uploaded to YouTube, you will be among the first to see it for yourself. So once again, be sure to hit like and subscribe. If you're watching this on Facebook, be sure that you follow us on Facebook. And as always, we thank you for watching the Your Farm podcast and our network presented by Indiana Farm Bureau, a united voice for agriculture. I'm CJ Miller for Hoosier Ag Today.